We're glad to have you back. Now, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment mandated to formulate policies that will help create wealth and employment, reduce poverty, and ensure enhanced service delivery to stimulate growth of domestic economy through industrialization, trade and investment. President Bola Tinubu has administered the oath of office of this ministry to Dr. Doris Uzoka-Anite. Joining me to look at the task ahead of this new minister is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Dignity Finance and Investment Limited, a top member of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Chijioke Ekechukwu. Good afternoon, sir. It's good to see you.
Good afternoon, Tolu.
Well, let's start with the submission of the new minister yesterday, and I will just read straight up. She says she is assuring Nigerians that she would attract more investment into the country. Attracting investment at this time is very important so that at least we can shore up revenue, build more confidence and all of that. But what do you think? Some say it's a tea party. A lot of work needs to be done. How does it come to you? First, what are your expectations?
That ministry is a major driver of economic growth and economic activities of any country, especially ours that has had a few challenges here and there. Trade, investment and industry ministry has a lot of work to be done. And in fact, like I called it, a major driver. I agree that it is the responsibility of the ministry to invite a whole lot of investments into the country. First of all, you have to look at our trade balance. Where are we today vis-a-vis every other country? Because when you're talking about trade relationship between your country and the rest of the world, you have to take country by country. Where are we? Are we positive or negative with this country? You deal with it. And then what is it that we have to offer this other country for us to have a trade surplus as against trade deficit? So if we take them country by country, then you see that there are countries we have to work hard on making sure that we have a trade, we have a good balance in trade. So if we do that, we also have to, the ministry has to ensure that the manufacturing sector, don't forget that there's industry part of that portfolio, to make sure that everything that will make industry, the manufacturing sector, not to do well, they have to get into their issues and find out why certain companies are closing down in Nigeria and going somewhere else. In other words, if there's any company that says we're going to shut down our affairs in Nigeria, we need to go straight on with them into discussions with them to find out why they are closing down and see whether there are issues we can actually resolve with this particular company and a set of companies within that sector. So we need to look at what our purchasing managers index is looking like today and give ourselves targets, a quarterly target on how to grow our purchasing managers index. And so once we keep doing this, we create the avenue for investors to come into the country to invest. And if we create this avenue, we have to make it a level playing ground for a lot of investors. And so we discovered that most of the things that will determine how well investors will come into the country will not only be determined by the trade and investment and ministry. There are many other ministries that are involved. The Ministry of Finance and other ministries that are related to the activities. Again, the minister has to create a way to have good relationship with the organized private sector, the chambers of commerce, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and other organized private sector areas, so that they will have one-on-one discussion, B2B meetings with some of these people, and actually get their feeling to know what they feel about the entire system. What can the ministry do to improve business in Nigeria? And in fact, whenever there is any B2B meeting involving Nigeria or government-to-government meeting involving Nigeria and other countries, it is very necessary that the ministry must involve the organized private sector, because many times we see that when such meetings happen, only government officials will go. Immediately they come back from such visits, everything discussed in those meetings will just end. So it's always good to go with practitioners in the various industries and the organized private sector so that there will be a follow-up on whatever discussions that have been done. Again, there is a lot of interface that's going to happen between her and the CBN governor and the Ministry of Finance and other ministries, actually, as a matter of fact. So we expect that a lot of work has to be done, and we expect that when they are done in the right way, there will be a growth of our economy and improvement from where we are today.
Indeed, that's the ultimate aim: economic growth, job creation, expanding GDP, reducing inflation, and we can go on and on, Dr. Ekechukwu, you know all of this. But let's talk about something very important I heard the minister also mentioned. Is about rebranding the country so that when we sell ourselves or when we want to attract this investment, people see us as people they can deal with. They believe in. We stand with contracts. We don't sign a contract today and tomorrow we are changing, what we already agreed on. So I want to ask you, what's your perception to the issue of rebranding outlook?
For me, the best way to rebrand is to have a change of attitude towards business. Change of attitude towards relationship with other countries, change of attitude towards making sure that corrupt areas in doing business are removed. You can tell, it's just like if you own a restaurant and rebranding does not involve that you're going to put all the billboards all over the place or go to TV, go to CNN. It's for you to cook good soup and maintain good sanitary environment. If you do, the rebranding will involve that one person will tell the next person, oh, go to Nigeria, you will do this. I went to Nigeria, I invested this one. So once we are able to clean up our internal system, then rebranding is almost automatic. Then everything we're going to do in rebranding is only going to be an additional effort we're going to make. So let us go back to the drawing board and look at all those things that are bringing us bad image, and then create opportunity for people to come and do business in Nigeria without losing money, without struggling. For example, the fact that people have done business in Nigeria and they cannot repatriate their forex, foreign currencies, is even if you do all the billboards in this world and go to CNN to talk about Nigeria, the one that they are seeing is the one they're going to talk about. More and more people will come because others have done business in Nigeria and they have succeeded. So what we need to do is just to make sure that our business environment becomes good for people to come and do business, and they will smile instead of being sad doing business in Nigeria. So the best way to start in rebranding is just to make sure that all those things that cause dissatisfaction amongst people in Nigeria and foreign investors, we need to deal with them one after the other. Of course, the issues of ease of doing business, we need to come back to it again and pick them one after the other and put them into phases. Phase one, we're going to deal with this. Phase two, we deal with this. If we do that, that is the rebranding that is necessary for us to do. Because, the issue of rebranding had taken place one time in the past. A lot of funds were loaded into the issues of rebranding of our country, but nothing changed. So we need to start by changing ourselves and the ways we do business. That's the best rebranding we need.
Dr. Ekechukwu, let's touch on our background. At least let's stay on that for some minutes. She's a seasoned banker, financial consultant, and a former commissioner of economy in the Imo State, coordinating the economy in Imo State. And all of the feedback we're getting from all of this, that she did very well in all of these positions. Are you looking at that will also help shape maybe our relationship with civil servants and all of that? Many are talking about all of this, and the president clearly wants results. That's all he wants.
Mm-hmm. Yes, first of all, I can tell you that with her background and the experience she has, coming from the private sector into the public sector, there's something the private sector does, especially for somebody who has worked in a bank before. She will want results, because private sector, especially banking, will actually talk about outcome, results, and achievement of targets. So I don't have any doubts concerning her drive, her possible drive to achieve results. So what she needs to do, what I think she needs to do is to do a lot of consultation. Consult a lot, not consultants. So I didn't say she consult with consultants. Consult a lot with parties that are necessary for results, for good results. When you consult with people, like I mentioned before, the organized private sector, you consult with civil servants, you consult with some practitioners in the industry, you consult with other economists like us. We're ready to render, even pro bono, certain services to ensure that things happen well and get results. So we expect that consulting will also always help, because nobody is an island of knowledge, nobody's an island of experience. People have other experiences they can always share in order for results to happen. So it is important that she consults well enough to be able to achieve results.
Let me take a step back and let's look at the ease of doing business initiative, because one of our major objectives, according to her, is to create a more business-friendly environment. And we know what PEBEC was all about during the previous administration, trying to straighten up things as it concerns businesses. I want to ask you, what more can be done in some straight terms? Remember, Karma was also reenacted. All of this was to make the business environment more conducive. What more are you expecting moving forward, Dr. Ekechukwu?
Yeah, my view is the fact that the ease of doing business in Nigeria is far from making sure you register your company in one day, or having all of them under one roof. It is completely far from that. The ease of doing business is a whole lot. It involves the fact that you want to get certain things done in a particular ministry, and you want to get your payments done. You don't need to follow your file from one table to another, and you're paying some monies to certain people to follow your file. That is an example of ease of doing business. Ease of doing business is the fact that you want to do business in Nigeria, government policies don't change overnight, and you lose a lot of money. Monetary policy will not change overnight, and you're losing a lot of money. And the fact that you are going to one day wake up from sleep and know that the property you thought was property in the right place has been revoked, and you don't have enough NEPA, or what's it called now, power to run your company, and now the price of buying diesel to run the generators have changed. So people are losing a lot of money. FX rate is no longer 2, where you have official and parallel market. Now they have been unified, and then you are losing a lot of foreign currency. This is the ease of doing business. So we need to have a straightened policy, long-term policy that people can predict, to say, in the next 5 years, this will not happen. In the next 5 years, this will happen. And when I don't need to see anybody or give money to anybody before I get certain results of an action I want to take. If I say I want to invest in the government of one particular person, when another government comes, the policy is not going to change. So these are the things that people are so afraid of. Policy somersaults and change of policies from one government to another. These are the things, these are the issues. So it is far from having registration of companies done in 24 hours. That is not it at all.
Dr. Ekechukwu, let's move to speak around the non-oil space. There seems to be a lot of focus around how we can improve our made in Nigeria produce or products. She also talked about encouraging indigenous companies to grow at this time. Yes, she mentioned that too yesterday. But specifically about non-oil. At the time, I'm sure you're aware, we had export expansion funds that was released by the federal government to address some of these challenges and improve that space. If you were to advise, what can we do? A lot of issues here, Doc. Issues about competitiveness, issues about standards here, issues about quality of produce. You know all of this. We can go on and on, yes, so that our goods can stand on the same shelf with international, products of like terms. So what can we really do to meet up with all of these challenges and at the end of the day, improve whatever comes in from the non-oil space, manufacturing, and all of that, SMEs?
Great. The first thing we need to do is to identify all those items, all those products that we have competitive advantage over virtually all countries of the world. We know we can produce sesame seed, we know we can produce cashew nut, we know we can produce palm oil and cocoa, as the case may be. Once we identify these ones, we need to set targets for ourselves to say, in the next 1 year, we want to be the largest producers and largest exporters of this particular product. We don't have to carry all of them at the same time. We want to be the largest exporters of this particular product. What do we need to do to achieve this? Item 1, we have to do this. We need to create more funding into this area. We need to develop, bring in more participants in this area. We need to motivate them by giving them funding to do this. Government needs to get involved in one thing or the other. Once we concentrate, you see, an effort that was made, even though the implementation was not just well done, an effort that was made in growing rice in this country produced results. First of all, what we did was just close our borders to importation of rice, and then we started a process of making sure that local rice producers have certain incentives. Now, did it yield results? Yes, it yielded results, but probably there were some lapses in implementation of that. So we need to identify other areas. We said we are largest producers of yam in the world. We exported the first set of yams, and they were spoiled before they got to their destination. I have not heard any other thing that happened since then. Have we corrected what happened, what led to that particular thing that made their yams to rot before they got to their destination? So we can actually identify these items one after the other to ensure that we become the best in the world. In the next 3 years, 4 years, we want to be the largest exporters of 1, 2, 3, 4 items. We concentrate on them and push them into the market, train a lot of people in what they need to do, and bring in a lot of participants in this area. Once we do this, you see that the growth trajectory is going to be showing every day. We're going to be measuring ourselves every quarter. And you see that once we do that, we'll achieve results. But when we keep doing some lip service to a lot of things we want to do, we are going to be revolving around the same place all the time. So I think that's what we need to do. Identify what we really need to export and produce, and put all the efforts into all those areas and look at the things we need to do to make them happen. These are the things we need to do.
Dr. Ekechukwu, let's wrap up this interview now, but before I let you go, let's touch on industrialization. That word, you know, it comes up whenever we are talking trade, investment, and all of that. Everyone says we need an industrialized economy for us to move ahead. Yeah. Where are we, and when do you think we'll get to this point?
If you remember many years ago, in the 70s, talking about early 70s and late 70s and early 80s, we had a good number of factories in Nigeria. These are stories you already know, and many Nigerians know. We know that somewhere in Kaduna, we used to have a road covered with all factories of textile. Somewhere in Ibadan, we used to have a lot of factories. In Bauchi, we used to have a lot of assembling plants, and many assembling plants, car assembly plants in Nigeria. So the first place to start with, again, is what went wrong. We need to identify what went wrong in order for us to start dealing with those things that went wrong, and in order for us to think about bringing in more people into manufacturing. Are there alternatives to the source of energy, source of power that is becoming the major problem in the manufacturing sector? Yes, there are alternatives. So what are those alternatives? We can decide that every city, and of course, this is not only federal, the state governments have a duty here, because if the federal government is making all the efforts and the states are still impoverished, then we're not doing anything. So every state governor must sit down and say, can I map out a place I can call an industrial park? And bring up shared services of electricity, shared services or utilities of electricity, water, roads, and telecoms, and other issues. And if every state has, just like we can have industrial area in Ogun State, and we have in Agbara in Lagos, why don't you replicate that in all the states? In fact, it doesn't even have to be the capital, where we have industrial park or industrial layout or whatever thing, so that we can provide all the infrastructure and all the facilities so that people can come in there, tap into already existing electricity or already existing power in order for their cost of production to come down. If we have people coming into such a place, everybody wants to buy property, even at the government should be ready to give it to them at a very low rate to acquire properties in industrial parks in order for them to enjoy the shared facilities that are going to be there to reduce the cost of doing their business. If we do this, I can tell you we're going to be having a lot of states producing a lot of things, and these are going to be items for export. And so I need the state government to actually complement the efforts of the federal government by creating their own industrial parks or industrial layouts and build facilities to be able to sustain whatever production that may have to happen to match whatever thing they can produce in those areas. Because what works for what Imo State may produce may be different from what Sokoto State or what Borno State may produce, depending on what they have competitive advantage over other states and over other countries. These are the ways to move forward, and we have to measure what we have achieved over the period. Measurement of progress is very important. We need to continue to do that.
Indeed, it's a running discussion. We'll keep at it and keep setting this agenda, letting the ministers understand that, yes, they need to hit the ground running. They've all said they will do that. We are watching, and we'll keep bringing up all of the issues surrounding every of the sector on TVC News and, of course, on Business Nigeria. Thank you so much, Dr. Chijioke Ekechukwu, Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer, Dignity Finance and Investment Limited, a top and arrow member of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for your time as usual.
Thank you very much, Tolu. Thank you.
Well, it's that time where we look at market